I'm joined now by relationship expert and international best-selling author Alan Pease, who is in Christchurch for a very quick trip. So, Alan, thank you for taking the time to meet with us. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for coming.
Oh, it's such an honour to be having a chat with you because, of course, we've known you for such a long time as a body language expert. How did it all get started for you, this life of yours?
I've been speaking to groups on how to sell and present yourself since the mid-1950s, when my dad took me knocking on doors. We was an insurance salesman, and he was showing me how to knock on doors and how to get in. So I've been doing this all my life.
So it kind of pretty much started from that basic sales training experience, didn't it?
Well, it did, and it made sense for me that when I became a teenager at school to get a job knocking on doors after school, selling pots and pans, which I did for 7 years. I was the king of pots and pans, which led to more speaking about how do you sell pots and pans. And so I became a seminar speaker by the late 1960s.
So how did that progress into you becoming a body language expert?
Well, part of that